Okay, here we are. We're continuing on page 27. Slander of the law. We'll continue from where we left off. Starts. This is from the Go Show. How terrible are the slanders Nichiren has committed in his past and present existences, since you have been born into this evil country and become the disciple of such a man. There is no telling what will happen to you. The Parinirvana Sutra states, good men, because people committed countless offenses and accumulated much evil karma in the past, they must expect to suffer retribution for everything they have done. They may be despised, cursed with an ugly appearance, be poorly clad and poorly fed, seek wealth in vain, be born into an impoverished and lowly family, or one with erroneous views, or be persecuted by their sovereign. It continues, they may be subjected to various other sufferings and retributions. It is due to the blessings obtained by protecting the law that they can diminish in this lifetime their suffering and retribution. Were it not for Nichiren, these passages from the sutra would virtually make the Buddha a liar. The sutra says, first, they may be despised. Second, they may be cursed with an ugly appearance. Third, they may be poorly clad. Fourth, they may be poorly fed. Fifth, they may seek wealth in vain. Sixth, they may be born to an impoverished and lowly family. Seventh, they may be born to a family with erroneous views. And eighth, they may be persecuted by their sovereign. These 8 phrases apply only to me, Nichiren. When one climbs a high mountain, one who climbs a high mountain must eventually descend. One who slights another will in turn be despised. One who deprecates those of handsome appearance will be born ugly. One who robs another of food and clothing is sure to fall into the world of hungry spirits. One who mocks a person who observes the precepts and is worthy of respect will be born to an impoverished and lowly family. One who slanders a family that embraces the correct teaching will be born to a family that holds erroneous views. One who laughs at those who cherish the precepts faithfully will be born a commoner and meet with persecution from one sovereign. This is the general law of cause and effect. Continuing on page 28. The sutra passages quoted above indicate 8 examples of how bad karma formed in past lifetimes leads to bad effects in one's present life. Nichiren Daishonin teaches the principle of lessening karmic retribution through the blessings obtained by protecting the law. These 8 examples of retribution show the general concept of karma. Each negative result has its corresponding bad cause in the past. Nichiren calls such correlation the general law of cause and effect. Nichiren states that he experienced all 8 of these types of karmic retribution. Indeed, as an exile, he faced all 8 at once. We can interpret his status as an exile on Sado as the equivalent of being cursed with an ugly appearance. Please note, however, that Nichiren states here that all these types of retribution apply to him in order to illustrate a fundamental causation beyond the generally accepted concept of karma, to teach you his concept of karma. The following chapters will go into more detail about Nichiren's rejection of the general law, of the general concept of karma, explaining slander of the law as the source of evil. The following chapters will go into more detail about Nichiren's rejection of the general law of karma, explaining slander of the law as the source of evil, as the source of all retribution. With this revelation, we can see the path to overcoming our negative karma. It's not about particular circumstances, it's slander of the law. It doesn't matter the circumstance. The slander of the law will lead to actions that create causes that you could look at and say, that's the cause of my suffering. No, the original cause is the slander of the law, which was the effect of you creating the karmic influence that you suffered from. Okay, going on to page 30, protecting the law. From the Gosho, my sufferings, however, are not ascribable to this causal law, the general law of cause and effect. He's saying, or general law of cause and effect in karma. My sufferings, however, are not ascribable. They're not based on that law, that causal law. In the past, I despised the votaries of the Lotus Sutra. I also ridiculed the sutra itself, sometimes with exaggerated praise and other times with contempt. That sutra, as magnificent as two moons shining side by side, two stars conjoined, one Mount Hua placed atop another, or two jewels combined. This is why I have experienced the aforementioned 8 kinds of suffering. Usually these sufferings appear one at a time, on into the boundless future. But Nichiren has denounced the enemies of the Lotus Sutra so severely that all 8 have descended at once. This is like the case of a peasant heavily in debt to the steward of his village and to other authorities. As long as he remains in his village or district, rather than mercilessly hounding him, they are likely to defer his debts from one year to the next. But when he tries to leave, they rush over and demand that he repay everything at once. This is what the sutra means when it states it is due to the blessings obtained by protecting the law. Here, Nichiren writes about how evil karma created through slander of the law in the past lifetimes is the fundamental cause of suffering in the present lifetime. The appearance of the 8 types of retribution all at once, he says, is actually his blessing from reproaching the enemy of the Lotus Sutra. Why? Because he is sure to attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. He's going to overcome all of that negative karma from all of those past lifetimes by taking it all on at once and actually attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime and transforming all negative karma then at that point in time into the functions of the goodness of the thus come one. Slander of the law is indeed the fundamental evil at the root of all negative karma, because I would make this point to you. What he's teaching you is, I'm going through all this shit because I did things to go through all this shit. But at the same time, don't forget the fact that I'm going through all this shit is the reason I'm able to say what I'm saying right now, which is going to free you. Okay? So that's the key, is to understand what you're doing is really the ultimate compassion and mercy of expressing through your life the fundamental power that exists in all beings, even though they're not aware of it. Slander of the law is indeed the fundamental evil at the root of all negative karma. Slander arises from one's deep-seated ignorance. You didn't know, so you screwed up over and over and over again. Ignorance of the workings of the mystic law. We didn't really understand the causal relationship of the mystic law, the cause and effect that's real. It's either go to heaven or go to hell. It's not something that just goes on and on and on and on and on and on, right? Slander of the law is indeed the fundamental evil at the root of all negative karma. Slander arises from one's deep-seated ignorance of the workings of the mystic law, and it may be also described as life's fundamental negative impulse, denying the possibility of attaining Buddhahood. How can we, through faith, break through slander of the law and the fundamental darkness? Faith is the only way, by the way. Faith is the cause to manifest Buddhahood, the supreme goodness, which has the power to transcend the causality of any evil. Transcend, meaning transform. In the world of Nichiren Daishonin's writings, this causality is referred to as the greater causality. It overrides the negativity of the past negative cause because it's the greatest of all cause. It's the greatest good. Good is always greater than evil. The greatest good is always greater than the greatest evil. Evil is always defeated by great good. Why? Because it's evil. In the world of the Nichiren Daishonin's writings, this causality is referred to as the greater causality. President Ikeda states, the substance of slandering the law is disbelief. It is not believing in the existence of the Buddha nature in oneself and others. Because you can't bring it forth and manifest it if you don't believe that you possess it, and you sure don't believe in it, in having others if you don't have it. Right. This disbelief is what fundamentally obstructs this disbelief in the Buddha nature is what fundamentally obstructs the emergence of the world of Buddhahood. This disbelief in your Buddha nature is the reason you're not able to manifest your Buddha nature. Okay? The teaching of Nichiren says that you have this Buddha nature. That's why faith in the teaching of Nichiren is the key to opening the door that allows you to do this for yourself. And you're the only one that can do it for you. Nichiren can't do it for you. His teaching can lead you there. You have to do it for you. You're doing it for everybody else. You're a bodhisattva of the earth. You are bodhisattva superior practices. That's what he says you are. What he says you must be. Just like him. You got to be superior practices. This disbelief is what fundamentally obstructs the emergence of the world of Buddhahood. It is also the root cause of various kinds of negative karma. Eradicating this disbelief and bringing forth the world of Buddhahood represents a more fundamental causality that makes it possible for us to change our karma. That's whenever I call myself a Buddha, I'm not making any kind of bad cause. Okay, I'm reiterating the great good cause I have of that realization. And it's the truth. It's the basis of my life. I fear nothing as a result. You can't kill me as a result. You can take my life, but I won't die. I never die. I'm eternal. Not me, my fundamental life state. Negative karma is subsumed. What does subsumed mean? Negative karma is subsumed in the world of Buddhahood and is purified by its power. It's diluted to nothingness. Subsumed would be like a world hitting the sun, and the sun just eats it up, right? And even though there was something that entered, it's no longer visible. That's what happens. Negative karma is subsumed in the world of Buddhahood, okay? And is purified by its power. To use an analogy, the emergence of the world of Buddhahood is like the rising of the sun. When the sun dawns in the east, the stars that it had shone so vividly in the night sky immediately fade into seeming non-existence. They're still there, but the sun's so freaking bright, you don't see them anymore. Okay? They aren't bright enough. They aren't as bright as your Buddha nature. That's what it's kind of saying. If they disappeared, it would go against the principle of causality. But just as the light of the stars and the moon seems to vanish when the sun rises, when we bring forth the state of Buddhahood in our lives, we cease to suffer negative effects for each individual past offense committed. In other words, this does not deny or contradict general causality. It doesn't change the fact that we made causes. It doesn't negate effects. How we perceive and manifest those effects is what is changed. In other words, this does not deny or contradict the general causality. General causality remains an underlying premise of Buddhism. You do something, you made a cause, an effect will occur. But it is subsumed by what might be termed a greater causality. To manifest Buddhahood is the greatest cause of all. There's no bad cause that could be a greater thing than the greatness of that causality. Do you understand? That's what it's saying. But it is subsumed. It's diminished to nothing. It's like the sun, what the sun does to the stars and the moon. All right? It is subsumed. This greater causality is the causality of attaining Buddhahood. This greater causality is the causality of attaining Buddhahood, is the causality of Lotus Sutra and the mystic law. It's the causality of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It's the causality of the original state. It's the causality of your true identity. It's the causality of your realization of your mission as a bodhisattva of the earth. It's the causality of your realization that you are the thus come one exactly as you are, regardless of who you are. Okay? Further, faith. Why can I say what I just said? I have faith in everything that I just said. Why do I have faith? Because I've seen in my own life the teaching that says that actually manifests. So it's real easy for me to believe it. I wish that for all of you, but it comes only from you. It doesn't come from the teaching. You have to manifest the teaching in your life, yourself, through your actions, through reaching down and desiring it. Faith generates the power to break through our fundamental darkness, the source of all evil, and brings forth our inherent Buddhahood as its effect. This is the greater causality. Nietzsche grasped on a profound level the principle of the karmic cause for retribution in one's present life. At the root of all evil lies disbelief in and slander of the law, the root. This grave offense sets in one's life a chain of negative causation, which continues without end. As long as this root cause remains, evil karma leads to more evil karma, and suffering begets further suffering. In the end, all we can do is await the arrival of intense, hellish suffering. In Nichiren Buddhism, to transform our karma is to challenge our disbelief in and slander of the law through faith, and to take action to protect and widely propagate the law. What did that just say again? In Nichiren Buddhism, to transform our karma is to overcome our doubts, is to challenge our disbelief in and slander of the law, to overcome our doubts and engage in the teachings of Nichiren through faith, believing in those teachings and taking action, and to take action to protect and widely propagate the law, which is his teaching. So to have faith in his teaching and to act in accord with his teaching. Transformation can be viewed from three different perspectives: lessening karmic retribution, eradicating karmic retribution, and changing karmic retribution. Three things. One, lessening karmic retribution. Lessening karmic retribution means lightening that which we might otherwise suffer intensely and for a longer period because of our grave offenses in past lifetimes. We used to call that tenju kyoju. In the passage, in the passage at the beginning of this chapter, that's taking heavier karma and changing it into lighter karma. At the beginning of this chapter, Nichiren explains this principle through the analogy of a peasant heavily in debt to his village steward. As long as the peasant remains in the village, the steward will not ask him to pay off the debt. But once he tries to leave, the steward will demand repayment. To be heavily in debt while remaining on the steward's domain is like being trapped in the chain of negative causation due to karma formed in past lifetimes. To leave the steward's domain correlates to escaping this downward spiral of negative karma. Through the blessings obtained by protecting the law, we can get out from under the influence of the fundamental evil of the slander of the law. Through the blessings obtained by protecting the law, through the blessings obtained by doing shakabuku and propagating the correct teaching in the latter day, we can get out from under the influence of this fundamental evil of slander of the law. That's what that's really talking about. The steward demanding the peasant pay off the debt represents our meeting persecution, which we will, as we take action to protect the law. If we're Buddhas, we're going to get that resistance, okay, to prove that we're Buddhas, because if we can't overcome that resistance, we never really were. All right. By meeting the persecution, the next one was transforming. The next one's lessening karmic retribution. By meeting persecution in this lifetime, we can stop the endless downward spiral of negative causation, leading us to the hell of incessant suffering. This is why Nichiren calls persecution a blessing, because that's what creates the opportunity for you to manifest the wisdom in trying to understand why this is occurring in your life, to then do the things that will eradicate and transform it permanently, eternally. Becoming the Buddha in your present form in this lifetime can never be changed as a causal relationship of entity. Okay, so he says, this is why Nichiren calls persecution a blessing. 2, the perspective of eradicating karmic offense is a focus on erasing the influence of negative karma over one's life. Although we cannot actually undo our past in order to make our negative karma disappear, we can eradicate the control it exerts over our lives. In other words, as Nietzsche writes, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. In other words, we've made causes that will create difficulties, but because of our faith in that next lifetime, those difficulties will be going, God damn, got a chance to show the power of the Gohonzon again. I got some benefit coming. All right? It won't bum us out. It won't depress us. It won't defeat us. It will always be a source of, look at me. I can do this. The perspective of eradicating evil offense is a focus on erasing the influence of negative karma over one's life. Although we cannot actually undo our past in order to make our negative karma disappear, we can eradicate the control it exerts over our lives. In other words, as Nietzsche writes, thank you, dear. As Nietzsche writes, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. In the same, from Lessening One's Karmic Retribution, WND 199. In the same letter he writes, the Nirvana Sutra teaches the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution. If one's heavy karma from the past is not expiated within this lifetime, one must undergo the sufferings of hell in the future. But if one experiences extreme hardship in this life, because of the Lotus Sutra, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. The sufferings of hell will vanish instantly because we will be in the life condition of Buddhahood, not in the life condition of hell, regardless of the circumstance around us. When one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds, as well as those of the three vehicles and the one vehicle, and the one vehicle, and the one vehicle of Buddhahood. Continue on page 34. The sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. This expresses our sense of liberation from the unending restriction of evil karma caused by slander of the law, our sense of security in no longer having to worry about being controlled by suffering, and the emergence of wisdom out of our fundamental darkness. Nietzsche also discusses the benefit of changing negative karma even after death, writing, and when one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds as well as those of the three vehicles and the one vehicle. Once we free ourselves from the 3 and 4 evil paths in this present lifetime, the chain of positive causation toward value creation will proceed from now into the future. The chain of causation and the cycle of rebirth will not disappear, but the pattern of karmic causation from one moment to the next, from one lifetime to the next, will be transformed from negative to positive. Did you understand what that just said? It says, the chain of causation and the cycle of rebirth will not disappear. So you're not going to undo and suddenly, like a god, be able to recreate karma into something that it wasn't. Cause and effect is absolute, but the effect has the simultaneity of cause and effect as the component of it, right? So you will not suffer in the world of hell or hunger or animality or anger or even real, pardon me, or anger. What will emerge is humanity, the realm of heavenly beings, the realm of the voice here is the realm of the cause awakened one, the realm of the Buddhahood, the realm of Buddha, the realm of Bodhisattva, the realm of Buddhahood. So the causes won't disappear, the effects won't really change, but how you perceive and receive them and reflect and do something about them in reaction to them will change. And will change in a process that's forever creating a lessening and lessening and lessening, okay? Once we free ourselves from the 3 and 4 evil paths in this present lifetime, the chain of positive causation toward, chain means it's all linked, it's all based on a continuum process, right? Each moment, that's the chain toward value creation will proceed from now into the future, because now you're doing everything as the Buddha instead of as a deluded one. That's the only difference between a deluded and a Buddha is what? Perceiving the truth. That's all it is. You're saying human being. The chain of causation and cycle of rebirth will not disappear, but the pattern of karmic causation from one moment to the next, from one lifetime to the next, will be transformed from negative to positive. Let's use the expression changing karma to describe this transformation. And now we get into Gankin Ogo, which is the most important thing for me to convey to you, because it's really something that only the Soka, only the Buddhism of the Sun really perceives correctly, because they're the only ones that practice in daily life in exact accord with the direction of the Daishonin, as Buddhas ourselves, rather than relying on higher powers of authority. Deliberately creating the appropriate karma, changing karma into mission. The bottom of page 34, we've only got a few more pages to go. Karmic transformation has its basis in the greater causality mentioned earlier. The greater causality is the causality of faith and Buddhahood. The 9 worlds versus the 10th world. Are you catching that? Okay. The cause of faith leading to the effect of one's emerging Buddhahood. Let me read that again. Karmic transformation has its basis in the greater causality mentioned earlier. The greater causality is the causality of correct faith and Buddhahood, the cause of faith leading to the effect of one's emerging Buddhahood, the faith that allowed you to realize at last that one is a thus come one of the 3 bodies. Okay, just like it says in point 6 of the 6 stages of practice or whatever, in point 1 of the OTT, chapter 16. The second Soka Gakkai president, Josei Toda, said that one who lives based on the greater causality, because again, this is a teaching of Soka. The second Soka Gakkai president, Josei Toda, said that one who lives based on the greater causality is an ordinary person, enlightened since time without beginning. What did that just say? The second Soka Gakkai president said that one who lives based on the greater causality is an ordinary person, enlightened since time without beginning, says you're a bodhisattva of the earth. Okay, you're an original disciple. This is the original state is manifest in your life. This is a wonderful expression. Devoting our lives, continuing, this is a wonderful expression. Devoting our lives to the mystic law, wrote President Toda, and chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo represents the means, the methodology, the path to transform our destiny for the better. By these means, all intermediary causes and effects vanish. When we go to Buddhahood, and we can go to Buddhahood straight from any of the 9 worlds, based on faith. We don't have to be in a cause awakened state or anything like that. We can go directly there based on faith. Devoting our lives to the mystic law, wrote President Toda, and chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo represents the means to transform our destiny for the better. It will have an effect that will last through this lifetime and continue on into future lifetimes. By these means, all subsequent causes and effects that might have happened had you not become the Buddha, since you did become the Buddha, they vanish. And our true selves, as ordinary people enlightened since time without beginning, emerge. Whatever gobbledygook had been added since the original state to create the obscuring of the original state, Buddhahood, becomes clear. Do you understand? And the true self that is the original state emerges for all eternity. You always come back as a clean bodhisattva of the earth, as a functioning disciple of the original teacher. Chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo means reconnecting with the life of Buddhahood. What's the life of Buddhahood? It's the life of Nichiren, frankly speaking. Chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, means reconnecting with the life of Buddhahood. We're not connecting with Shakyamuni. We're not connecting with the teachings of someone else. We're connecting totally and solely with the teachings of Nichiren. And President Toda and President Ikeda have understood and are expressing the teachings of Nichiren succinctly for us to be able to actualize that. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo means reconnecting the life of Buddhahood. Our practice is what takes us there, which has existed since time without beginning. That's the original state. That's Kuan Ganjo, time without beginning. It is to transcend all intermediary causes and effects, to make all of the karma that should happen transform based on the attainment of Buddhahood in our present form, which creates this transformation of all intermediary causes and effects. Are you with me? All right. They still exist. There's going to be an effect. The causes were made, but it's not going to be the same effect that it would have been had this greater good not affected the causality of the total, the summation, okay? Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo means reconnecting with the life of Buddhahood, which has existed since time without beginning. It is to transcend all intermediary causes and effects, the various good and bad causes that lead respectively to happiness and unhappiness, and live based on the greater causality of attaining Buddhahood. President Toda went on to describe our organization of ordinary people as happy, pure, refreshing, and harmonious. The brightness and cheerfulness of our organization continues today without pause. What President Toda identifies as intermediary causes and effects refers to what Nichiren describes as the general law of cause and effect. By chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, ordinary people break through their intermediary causes and effects. They bring forth the condition of fundamental cause and effect, thus emerging as Buddhas, ordinary people, thus emerging as Buddhas. We transform ourselves from ordinary people controlled by karma into ordinary people manifesting the state of Buddhahood based on the principle of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Buddhahood is in all the other 9. We'll put another way, those who are tormented by their own karma will become people who stand up with the mission to change negative karma for both themselves and others. Boy, since that relates, I can relate to that. That describes my life to some degree. Let me read it one more time. Put another way, those who are tormented by their own karma will become people who stand up with the mission to change negative karma for both themselves and to speak the truth so that others can do the same. A passage from the opening in the eyes, let the gods forsake me, expresses Nichiren's vow, which empowered him to fight all forms of evil. We might say then that his teaching of changing karma is based on the power of a vow, a point that is illustrated by the Buddhist principle of deliberately creating the appropriate karma. From the standpoint of Nichiren's teaching of changing karma, we can now see our own hardships, our karmic suffering, as opportunities to forge our lives. Furthermore, from the perspective of those who have forged their lives thoroughly, their karmic suffering has now become their chosen path of mission along which they have vowed to prove life's essential power to overcome suffering. In other words, it is the mission they have wished for in order to help others rid themselves of suffering. Whoa. This is the meaning. I'm going to start crying. Sorry. This is the meaning of deliberately creating the appropriate karma, or also translated as voluntarily assuming the appropriate karma. To live by that wish, however, one must face the suffering of an evil age. President Ikeda writes that Daishonin fully understood that the great persecutions he was experiencing constituted hardships that he had wished for out of his desire to accomplish his mission as a badass. Because he was undergoing these difficulties in order to lead all people to enlightenment, he declared they were a great source of joy. He could only help the suffering people. And this is what he realized and why he was willing to experience whatever he had to experience. He could only help the suffering people by actually sharing their trials and pains and then showing them as a fellow human being how to overcome those sufferings.
Exactly.
Because the Daishonin waged such a monumental struggle, we regard him as the Buddha of the latter day. President Ikeda is referring to the great joy mentioned at the end of the opening of the eyes. Nichiren writes, "For what I have done, I've been condemned to exile, but it is a small suffering to undergo in this present life and not worth lamenting. In future lives, I will enjoy immense happiness, a thought that gives me great joy." It is not an exaggeration to describe the teaching of changing karma as the doctrinal framework of Nichiren Buddhism. Although the concept of the cycle of rebirth is less familiar to Westerners, the issue regarding the meaning of suffering is universal. With regard to the meaning of suffering, the Nichiren Buddhist concept of changing karma may be thought of as a teaching that transcends the limits of the Christian concept of original sin. The people who will experience the great joy are those who realize life's great inner capacity for overcoming any hardship. How can you do that unless you've experienced hardship? Who awaken to their mission in this lifetime, which adds depth to the meaning of one's life. Our vow to accomplish our own and others' happiness is originally inherent in our lives. It's our original state of enlightenment that is part of the original state he just said is like fundamental darkness. It's fundamental enlightenment. Our vow to accomplish our own and others' happiness is originally inherent in our lives. Buddhahood is there from the very, 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 very beginning. We can say then that Nichiren Buddhism is a religion in which we reawaken this vow from within and accomplish it amid the realities of the world. Whew. And that's the end. Okay. Before we turn this off, though, I've got to answer a little more deeply a question. How much time?
36 minutes.
Okay, I got just enough time to get into Brother Bot's question. Okay, my brother Bot asked me a question about non-substantiality, part of the three truths. He said, the three truths are non-substantiality, temporary existence, and the truth of the middle way. And the point of that is that while it might seem that we're in a life that we see be born and we see extinguish, okay, die, okay, that's temporary existence, all right? Non-substantiality is what's is the doctrine of consciousness only, and this whole concept that mind as being something that's universal, and all of this is just a component of our some sort of, I don't know really how to describe that way of thinking, but it's not real, okay? And then the truth of the middle way is obviously Nagarjuna's realization and his qualification. He's the source of this, actually, that it's neither, nothing or something that's only temporary. It's something that is both of those things, okay? But how can that be? How can temporary existence, or what is non-substantiality and so forth? So I don't have these marked because I wasn't as prepared as I should be, but I'm going to go to non-substantiality first. Give me a break here. I'm not that good. There we go. Oh, I happen to have it already. Non-substantiality. So this is the specific answer to your specific question, Brother Bot. Shunyata. Shunyate, or ku in Japanese. It's kukechu. That's what the three truths are in Japanese. A fundamental Buddhist concept, also translated as emptiness, void, latency, or relativity. The Sanskrit shunya or shunya or shunyate means emptiness. Shunya also means empty or empty of. It is the concept that things and phenomena have no fixed or dependent nature or existence of their own. No fixed or dependent nature or existence of their own. Non-substantiality is neither negative nor world negating, but teaches the importance of perceiving the true nature of phenomena, which means when things go from the state of being there, they don't just disappear when they seemingly have died or been destroyed. There is a karma storage that's going on that is the eighth consciousness. And we'll get into the ninth consciousness as part of this explanation, but it is the concept that things and phenomena have no fixed or dependent nature or existence of their own. Brother Bot, you're not always Brother Bot. You're not reincarnated as Brother Bot, move further along the path. Okay, your appearance will change based on your causes. Your nature will change based on your causes. The manifest entity will be a different manifest entity in your next existence than in this existence, unless you've lived a moment for moment carbon copy of your previous existence that created who you are right now. Do you understand? Okay, so non-substantiality is neither negative nor world negating. It's just saying that nothing ever dies. Okay, but nothing ever has a form or a substance that's permanent. All right, but in temporary existence, we have a permanent state until death. Okay, we can see it. It's not something that's non-substantial. It's very substantial. Okay, I've got a heart and lungs and a bunch of other stuff that's got to function well and correctly, or I will expire. I will cease being a living existence. So it says, pardon me. But teaches the importance of perceiving the true nature of phenomena and perceiving the reality that it's not temporary existence actually, which are on the surface transient. The Wisdom Sutras developed the Mahayana concept of non-substantiality. I apologize. of non-substantiality and Nagarjuna systemized it based on them. The concept originated in connection to those of dependent origination and of the non-existence of self-nature. Dependent origination means that because phenomena arise only by virtue of their relationship with other phenomena, they have no distinct nature or existence of their own, which is the truth. Non-existence of self-nature means that there is no independent entity that exists alone apart from other phenomena. The common message is that the true nature of all phenomena is non-substantiality, and that it cannot be defined in terms of the concepts of existence and non-existence. Again, non-substantiality is not non-existence. Okay? A lot of people kind of think that must be what, no. It's to say there's existence when there's no provable place or way to prove that existence still exists until it re-exists. It's difficult, but I hope you're catching what I'm saying. Nagarjuna explained it as the truth of the middle way. A perspective that regards the categories of existence and non-existence as extremes and aims to transcend them, to understand them in the true nature and all practical manners in which they could be perceived. The practical purpose behind the teaching of non-substantiality lies in eliminating attachments to transient phenomena and to the ego, or the perception of self as an independent and fixed identity. Because according to Buddhism, we don't have a fixed identity. I am not reborn as Tom. Okay? I transmigrate and I manifest as cause and effect of appearance, cause and effect of nature, and cause and effect of entity, and then power, influence, and all the other 10 factors follow based on that original self that becomes an original self again, because it's being reconstructed each time based on your original self. All right? Okay, so that's non-substantiality. Pardon me. I'm so congested, I don't know if I can continue. I think I'm going to have to stop here because it's becoming more and more difficult for me not to clear my throat with every thought. Brother Bot, I will explain the balance of this. But again, the three truths explain the reality of this moment. This moment is neither something that has never existed, nor is it something that will always exist. This is the key. This moment is always changing. This moment is never the same. This moment is continuous and never stops. All right? Thank you very much. See you next time.
Bye.
Let's hope we stop COVID.